Hello, this is the Reverend Dr. David Chotka of Spirit Equipped Ministries. I've been pondering over the last few days some of the times when God used people whom didn't want to be used. I'm thinking of how Cyrus of Persia wound up helping the Jews build a temple in Jerusalem. I'm thinking of the time when Balaam got it wrong and his donkey was used by God instead of him. And as I was reflecting on those kinds of things, I remembered a story told to me when I was a student in Vancouver studying with an English guy named David Pawson. He told this story in the class, and I remember the first time I heard it, I didn't like the story. But as I reflected on what it was that Pawson said, it really made a lot of sense to me. You see, Pawson had been a Methodist. He wound up becoming a Baptist, but when he started in ministry, he was in the Methodist Church in England. And the story that he told dated back from the 1950s. Before television was common, and let alone telephone devices and pads and so on, the Methodist Church in England determined to use modern technology, audio visuals, to spread the gospel. So they bought a van, they equipped it with a film projector with a sound system, and the town was slated to go from town to town. A gospel film, a gospel presentation would be shown after they advertised across the town. And at the close of the film, the evangelist would give a short message and invite people to come forward to receive God's grace, whether they were starting from scratch or whether they had been a Christian and fallen away or whatever the issue happened to be. They used to call that an altar call. And any new seekers or beginning Christians that came forward or through faith in the process would be sent to a local Methodist church. Well, they didn't have any trouble finding somebody who wanted to be an evangelist. Unfortunately, the Methodist Church had a very hard time finding a Christian audiovisual guy. So they searched high and low, and in the end, they settled by hiring a moral agnostic. An agnostic is somebody who doesn't know quite what they believe. They're not sure. But the fellow they hired was a clean-living guy who just didn't know if he believed in Jesus or not. So off the two of them went, the evangelist from the Methodist Church and the agnostic who was hired by the Methodist Church to do this job. Now, even though their beliefs were not identical, and sometimes they were quite different, those two fellows actually became fast friends. They discovered they had a lot in common beyond the claims of Christ, and they became inseparable. Well, one evening, just before the gospel film was to be shown, the evangelist got a terrific case of the stomach flu. It was too late to cancel the presentation. They'd advertised all through the town with handout flyers. So the audiovisual man did what he had to do. He ran the film, even though the evangelist could not be right there. Now, that agnostic fellow had heard that same gospel message presented easily 70, maybe 80 times. And he had it pretty well down pat, including the mannerisms on the face of the evangelist and the way that he manipulated his hands while he spoke. He figured out how to deliver the thing. So because he really, really cared for his friend, the agnostic gave the message. He did the altar call, and he had so many seekers respond that he had to get the sick evangelist up out of his bed of illness to ask him what he should do with all those people. Now, the first time I heard the account, it left a very strange taste in my mouth. I thought it was kind of false or wrong. But in time, the point of the story became crystal clear, especially as I read gospel accounts in which people unwittingly did the things of God. Here's the principle. The word of the Lord is true. It's true regardless of who it is that's saying it, and it stands on its own. True is true whether it's uttered by someone who loves and believes it, and then it carries significantly more power, or whether it's said by somebody who happens to be mouthing the words. God can use whatever truth emerges from the lips of anyone, even out of the mouth of someone who isn't sure what he or she believes. If that's so, then surely God can take those moments when you have to grit your teeth or white-knuckle endure some trying circumstance you're in because you've accepted a hard assignment from God himself. So, when you even don't want to show up and you know that the Lord has a message through you that needs to be delivered, even if the state of your heart isn't as it needs to be, when you show up, God's word shows up, and the word of the Lord is true, and it stands on its own. This is the Reverend Dr. David Chotka of Spirit Equipped Ministries. If you like receiving these short little messages, please subscribe to the YouTube channel at Spirit Equipped Ministries, and you will find that there's going to be a YouTube video there twice a week. May the Lord bless you, may He encourage you, and I look forward to the next time we have to chat together.